Music is the vector for culture. Culture is a vector for civilization. The fact that music is an international language unites in the individualities of each human being on earth groups of people from different language cultures, different faiths, different communities, because music addresses directly the message to the psyche. And you can have it to soothe, you can have it to excite, you can have it to reflect, or you can have it to distract and eventually dance, sing. In other words, I think that if we educate musically children without having to become musicians, it will teach them the meaning of beauty that they will have to discern on their own, the meaning of transcendence, something bigger than us, bigger than our finitude on earth. And we can have it through faith, we can have it through ideologies for social organizations, we can study it through history and imagine the future during the present of how people reacted to each other. Of course, you have always, I'm not naive, greed, power, desire to revenge, which is in the human nature, as well as to be tolerant, as well as to have great convictions, while being so open-minded to the alterity of the other human beings. No whatever gender, no whatever race, no what historical ethnicity or mixed ethnicity. All these subdivisions are necessary for identities, and music goes along with folklore, with identity that makes the statement of the human being's own belonging to a group, but through the individual approach that allows them through educated knowledge to be critical, discerning, choosy, not to be easily manipulated and easily driven to become eventually negative to other groups. I don't have either the naivete to think that music will solve the problems of humans, but I still think that if music is used a lot by those who manipulate humans as a distraction, so that they don't think about what they are in fact subjugated to, if they think of music as the capacity to forget in an escapism, I think it's a healthy escapism when art allows you to reimagine the world through a novel, through a film, through an audio, through a book mainly, but also through a video game in which you enter in immersion and you become actor of the storytelling. Each of us is creative and don't have to be a writer to know how to read and write, don't have to be a composer to know how to make music. Not only to listen to it, but also to make it. Of course, the levels of complexity, same with science, same with medicine, same with all kinds of forms of abilities that humans have developed to elevate themselves to levels of capacities which transcend our passage on earth. And individually without having to do it in a gestural way. We contribute through a beautiful poem, melodic line of a song that becomes the opportunity for somebody to engage in a love relationship and say, oh, through this music is because, of course, we have the ritualistic music for used for weddings or for funerals, for births. But beyond that, I find that if we educate the younger generations to cherish the meaning of beauty as a transcendence, not just an aesthetic choice, I like this, I hate that, I find this ugly, this beautiful, fine, that is a very necessary level of acquiring the tools to make these decisions. And I think that the more you have tools, the more you're educated, the more you're historically informed, the more you understand how some situations manipulate you. It's not easy. It's not an easy path. It's easier to maintain vast masses of people in a subjugation to some rule and giving them the fake impression that they have access to many things which in fact are there only to erase their capacity to be alive in the sense of participate, be capable, of course, to discover a painting and find its meaning even through studies or through just intuition. And what does it bring you directly in your life of the day life? Nothing really. Not directly, like music, like dance, like opera. Of course, being a musician, I'm biased, but it's sculpture, but it's architecture, landscaping, organization of spaces, inward and outside, and how that shapes our minds. Of course, each individual language group, through their inherited mother tongue, they see the world through the languages, grammar and syntax and vocabulary. And no secondary learned language will be the equivalent of the first language, which you learn by ear, that enters the deepest level of your subconscious. And I think that music could be a very good universal language with which you can connect to so many people. If you have a message of social injustice to scream out, or racial one through rap, or if you have a message of brotherly or whichever level humanity's solace, love, acceptance, you can do it through faith music. But again, if you limit music only to its specific function, then I think it's a little bit reductive, because music has more universal action than only the music action for which it's predestined at a given time of your necessity. And I think that music is a practice, lesson for young people who start it early enough, if their parents give them the opportunity and push them without to force them. That is a difficult but important nuance. They won't right away realize it. It's like nutrition. They don't know which nutrition element is important, but any parent who cares wants to make sure he gives the balanced nutrition to the newborns. Therefore, same for the social, psychological, I would say spiritual food. And I think that practicing an instrument, voice, or any other group or solo experience teaches the citizen, to become more disciplined, just like through sports they learn how to accept defeat as well as strive towards success, and then they learn about the innuendos of their art forms that are within the sport in order to be effective, not only aesthetically. And music is not just an aesthetic element that stays on its own. It's part of the human nature's thirst for uplifting. There is something transcendental above us, bigger than us. Centuries before and centuries after. So, yes, we need to be active in our present while we have to be aware of our past, and therefore choose what we value, not only what everybody tells us to value. Because while the value system is an exchange system among humans, having a general culture helps navigate through this saturated information field. Before, there was under information. People didn't travel enough at all or very little. It was difficult, expensive, and dangerous. People didn't have access to distant cultures and awarenesses until television, after film. Now with the internet, you're everywhere, anywhere. And to the point to which the anywhere replaces the everywhere, and nothing is interchangeable. We remain rooted in our roots, family or ethnicity or language. We don't laugh at the same things in the same language. We don't cry in the same things, reacting to the art form imitating life, would it be film, poetry, song, sculpture, any form, because it's part of our human experience through our culture, and our culture is inevitably connected to our spiritual awareness that something is larger than us in terms of time and space. And so to be good to each other is not a lame engagement, it's in fact a very courageous one. And I find that experiencing art makes you more refined when you understand different styles of paintings, different genres of music, different styles of pop music, different styles of rock music. You become aware because you love. And because you love, you're curious to know. And if you think it's not for you, then you remain ignorant by saying, let's say, opera is not for me because it's boring, it's long, it's artificial, it's for rich old people, and rock is for young people. But ultimately, that is something that should coexist, not replace. And I find that, of course, I'm biased being a musician, but I think as a human, about science and medical progress and understanding of the distances between planets. All this is niche knowledge which today is accessible more than before. It already was by books. Now it's also by other forms of connecting to such knowledges. So yes, I'm an old man now, but I still remain extremely curious to learn what I don't know. Not that I can pretend to understand everything, but I find it fascinating that people reserve so much of their lives to understand something specific about a dead tongue or a new scientific function that will allow this or that, or perhaps just on its own, like a poetry is just words chosen for their sounds as well as for their meaning, but that makes us travel mentally when we read them, like music makes us, perhaps, first, depending which kind, but it can go from reflective to reactive. And I think that it's a vector through education for understanding among people. I know when one says those words, it sounds lame. And when people glorify destruction of each other, I don't think people find that lame. I think they find it so frightening they want to ignore it until it comes upon them. And I find that it's not necessarily helping or solving anything, but thinking it, it's already placing our priorities humbly in front of the universe through our fellow human beings. And I find that music is, in all its aspects, a beautiful language, if it were, or a soulful connection between people at all levels and from all continents. At least that's what I hope that music can do. It's not magic, it's an acquired taste. And the acquired taste leads to refined tastes. It leads to choosing to reject as well as to accept, or perhaps change your mind with time. It's not about having no opinions, it's about being not narrow minded. And nothing is more open mind setting ourselves than becoming aware of the centuries of art forms which humans have left for us to enjoy, even if it was for themselves, indirectly for us who come after them, and for what we will leave as a trace after us for the next. Thank you.